Hi, friends. Welcome to week 7 of Nourish and Flourish. This week is all about mindset, one of my favorite weeks. So, I'm going to talk you through the slides that we used in the session this week. In case you missed it, you can catch up. And if you were there but you enjoyed it, you can use the slides to have a little recap. So, session 7, 7 of 12, we're coming towards the end now. And we're thinking about mindset. Now, the reason that we're thinking about mindset is because a weight loss journey is all about mindset. Long-term behavior change starts with changing how we think, how we feel about ourselves, how we interact and show up in the world around us. So often when we're on a journey like this and we want to overhaul and up level our healthy habits for the long term, we need to do some work around the mindset. So let's get started. We started with a check-in like we always do, and people shared how they'd been getting on. And then the session goals. Number one is to understand how our brain creates our experience. Then we're going to think about what are limiting beliefs, firstly, and then how they hold us back. And then I'm going to give you some practical strategies for uprooting them. And then we're going to do an activity and we're going to learn how to embed more helpful beliefs. So there are three key session goals. Okay, so we started off thinking about the reticular activating system. From now on, I'm going to call the reticular activating system the RAS because it's a bit of a mouthful. Now, the RAS is essentially your brain's filter. It's a part of the brain back here, top of the neck, top of the brainstem, and it controls or it filters what information comes in and what information is kept out. Now, this is an essential job, right? So, like I've said here, it's a bundle of nerves located in your brainstem that acts as a gatekeeper. It's an essential job because every second your senses are bombarded with millions of bits of information. Think of your five senses that we know about: touch, taste, smell, sound, sight, but also interoception, proprioception, your internal senses as well. Your body, your brain is being given millions of bits of information all of the time. Now, we can't cope with all of that. The analogy that I often use is imagine you're sitting in a chair and somebody throws 11 million paper clips at you. You're going to put your hand up and try and catch some. The rest are going to fall by the wayside. It's impossible. So our conscious mind can only cope with a small amount of information. Numbers that you hear are like 40 to 50 bits of information at a time. So a lot of those millions of bits of information don't make it through to the conscious mind because otherwise we'd be overwhelmed, we'd be overloaded, we wouldn't be able to process all of that. We don't have the processing system speed capabilities, right? So we allow in what we think is important to us, and we're going to come back to that a little bit more in a minute. So the RAS, the reticular activating system, decides of all of that information that's coming in. Now, when I say all of that information that's coming in, there's information coming into your senses that you're not consciously aware of, okay, until I make you aware of them. So, yes, you're sitting in a room, you're watching your laptop, you're watching a screen, perhaps you're listening to me, you can hear my voice. But the information coming into your body, there might be a sound out of the window, how the chair feels under your bottom, how your feet feel in those socks, the temperature of the room, the amount of light, perhaps there's a flicker on the light bulb. All of this information is coming at us all of the time. And obviously we have to decide what's important and what can be ignored, deleted, distorted, filed away for another time. So the RAS is that system, it's that filter. It decides which 1% comes in and which 99% can be ignored. Now, because obviously evolution and our number one our number one driver being survival, the RAS will always look for threats. So you'll always be made of if there's smoke or a loud noise or a bang or something that pose a potential threat to us. And then your RAS will look for things that you've told your brain are important to you. It will focus on the things that it thinks is important to you. So let's think about that in a little bit more detail. I asked the group, I showed them this clip on, you can find it on YouTube. I showed them about a minute of this clip, and we're just standing on the corner. I think this is Oxford Street, and we're just watching the world go by, right? Just about a minute's worth. And then I asked the group to write down 5 things that they notice. Nothing special, nothing particular. Just write down 5 things that you notice. And then when we fed back as a group, obviously everybody had noticed different things. And we all notice different things because we've all got different filters. We've all got a different reticular activating system doing a different job. And it's looking for the things that it thinks are important to us. The things that my brain thinks are important to me won't be the same as what your brain think is important to you. So that was just an idea of looking at the reticular activating system in what, this is what it looks like. People noticed um, all sorts of different things. Some people notice the big things. Some people notice the small things. Some people notice small details about people that pop up on the screen. And the reason they notice is because there's some connection to them. There's something about them that their brain thinks is important. So let's think about the reticular activating system. Let's think about the reticular activating system as a bouncer or a security in a nightclub, right? So you've got this hip happening nightclub that everyone wants to be in. You've got a massive queue down the road, a queue around the block. The bouncer, the security on the door, it's his job to say, yes, you can come in, you can't go in. We've got millions of people queuing up to get into this nightclub. This nightclub only holds 50 people, right? So we've got to be really careful about the 50 people that we let in. The 50 most important people are allowed to come in, okay? That's kind of how it's working in terms of letting information in. So when we think about this, what we then come to is this idea, okay, well, if I'm seeing this and you're seeing that based on our filters, and our filters come from our experiences, right? So our brain has created these filters based on our experiences. We're all essentially seeing our own unique version of the world, which is the same as or similar to seeing the world through a lens. So I see my world through my lens based on my filters. You see your world, your experience of life through your lens based on your filters, right? So I asked everybody in the group, I had lots of different coloured glasses, just like plastic party glasses, but they were all different colours. So I asked everybody to choose a pair of glasses and to look at this picture. Now, this is a beautiful picture by John Dyer, who is an artist, I think, based in Cornwall in the UK. So we used this picture as an example because it's very colourful and it's got a lot of detail in it. So what happened was when people put on particular different color, like a coloured glasses, some things in the pictures would change. So some things would stand out more, some things might disappear completely. So we had people with red, green, yellow, pink, blue, whatever. And I asked, okay, who can see the snakes? Who can see the parrots? Who noticed this? Who noticed that? And we got a really mixed response because depending on what lens you have, depending on what filter you have, you're having a different experience of this picture. So this was sort of representing how the reticular activating system works in reality, in real life, right? So, moving on from that, this is how our beliefs are formed. So, our beliefs are formed depending on what we see, and we see what we look for. We see what we want to see. We see what our reticular activating system thinks is important. So, if we are somebody who is a bit pessimistic, often looks on the downside of life, you're going to see more of that. Your brain is going to show you evidence of that because that's what it believes is important to you. Whereas if you are somebody who is quite optimistic, looks on the sunny side, feels quite positive, has a growth mindset, your brain's going to show you more of that. Your brain is going to work to show you evidence that things are good. Okay, so it's all about perspective. You see what you want to see. Where this is really interesting, we're not aware of our filters. So until we do this work and we start thinking about how we think, so that metacognition, we're not aware of what our filters are. Good news, your filters can be changed. Okay, so if you're wearing these glasses, this color glasses, you've got this lens on currently, you can remove that lens and you can put on a lens that's more helpful for you. And I demonstrated this with these two statements. I asked the people who were wearing the red glasses and the people who were wearing the blue glasses to read the statements. And some of them felt, depending on what lens they had going on, some of them were able to see more clearly, I am capable of change, and some were able to see more clearly, I am stuck as I am. So you can see that you've got this growth mindset, fixed mindset, this optimist, pessimist. You've got this lens, this view of the world. And sometimes, if we don't know how to change that lens, we can get stuck there. We can get stuck there thinking, I am stuck as I am, that this is my life, this is it, this is what's available to me, which is very fixed mindset. And we don't want that. So thinking about how we think, then we brought in a bit of neuroscience here. So how beliefs are built. If you think of neural pathways across the brain, you can imagine it as this lovely path here through a forest, right? So you've got quite a wide, well-trodden path through the woods or the forest here. Now, the more you think something, the stronger that path is. The more you believe something, the more you think something, you tread that path. And the more you tread that path, the deeper and the more established it becomes. The reticular activating system, so the RAS, your brain's search engine, essentially, that's looking for evidence, that's allowing this information in because I think that's important to you, or keeping that information out. Your reticular activating system will scan the world around you to find evidence of your thoughts and your beliefs, right? To reinforce it. So every time you think something, you're reinforcing the thought, you're making the neural pathway across the brain even stronger, more embedded, and your reticular activating system, your RAS, is going to show you evidence of that. So this is why we have this idea that you don't see the world as it is, right? There's no such thing as an objective reality, that's it, that's reality, that's what's happening, because we all have our own individual and unique version of reality. If we all stand in a line and witness something, we'll all see something slightly different because we are interpreting that information, we are receiving that information through our senses, and it's being filtered by our reticular activating system based on our experiences and the person that we are. So we don't see the world as it is, as this objective thing. We see the world as we are. Okay? This can lead to, so if this is the way we think, this is our thoughts. These thoughts, when they are well rehearsed, well practiced, they become these really embedded pathways across the brain. They're not facts, these thoughts. They're just thoughts, but they're thoughts that we've thought so many times that they've got stuck, essentially, and they've turned into beliefs. Now, these beliefs are limiting beliefs because they're not facts. It's just a belief that got stuck, and we it hampers us, it stops us, it restricts us from going forward, it holds us back. So if we have a thought that I'm not enough, I'm too old, I'm never going to be good enough, I can't do that, and we think these thoughts all the time, they become beliefs. But they're not facts. They're just beliefs. They're beliefs that we've thought so many times, thoughts that we've had so many times, they've turned into beliefs and they've got stuck. So then we did an activity about uprooting limiting beliefs. And the interesting thing about this activity is I asked everyone in the group in the leaves up here. So, and imagine we've got some fruits in the leaves and the fruits up here. I asked people to write, what are your goals, your aims, your ambitions? What do you want to achieve? You know, if you had a magic wand, If you could achieve anything, what would it be? And we can relate that to the weight loss journey. So, and people wrote their goals and their aspirations, things like obviously I want to lose weight, but I want more energy, I want to sleep better, I want to feel more comfortable in myself, I want to be more confident, I want to make better connections with people, I want to feel at home in my body, I want to feel comfortable in my skin, I want to wear nice clothes, I want to be a size whatever. So all of these goals and aspirations, right, written up here in the leaves and the fruits. And then we look at the roots. And then the roots are our limiting beliefs. So on the roots, I ask people to think about, okay, so what are some current beliefs that you have that potentially hold you back, right? So thoughts that you have or beliefs that you have that are potentially holding you back. And people wrote down their limiting beliefs and their thoughts down here. And they write things like losing weight is hard. I'm going to be hungry all the time. This is too difficult. I can't do it. I've got no willpower. All of these things, right? Again, not facts, limiting beliefs. And then what we talked about is how we water this tree, this belief tree, we water this belief tree through the roots with these limiting beliefs, right? So if we feed this tree with limiting beliefs, how do we expect this tree to be able to grow these aspirations? How do we expect these aspirations to come true when in our unconscious mind, these are our beliefs? They can't. There's an imbalance. They're incongruous, right? They're misaligned. In order to achieve an aspiration, you have to believe that you can achieve the aspiration. If in your conscious mind you're thinking, I want to lose weight, I want to be a size X, I want to lose X amount of weight, but then in the bottom, in your unconscious mind, in your root system, in your belief system, you believe deep down, I can't lose weight, what's going to happen? You're not going to lose weight because your conscious mind, if you don't believe it at an unconscious level, you won't be able to achieve it in your conscious mind because your reticular activating system will look for evidence to make sure that these limiting beliefs are reinforced. So what will happen? You will unconsciously sabotage your weight loss journey. You will make choices that are not that good for you, right? You'll be tempted this way or that way, or someone will ask you to, oh, yeah, sure, why not? Because you're unconsciously sabotaging yourself, because at a deep rooted level in your limiting belief system, you don't believe that you can do it. So, in order to achieve these aspirations up here, we have to do the work down here and we have to uproot those limiting beliefs, which is where mindset work is so important on a weight loss journey. And there are some common limiting beliefs there that come up for women on a weight loss journey. And then we talked about and discussed empowering. So reframing it. Reframing is an NLP technique, neuro linguistic programming. It's about it's perspective. Remember, I said before, you'll see what you look for. So if you reframe it into something more positive, something more growth mindset, you're more likely to be able to achieve it. We don't want to be using this kind of very fixed mindset language. We want to move towards empowering reframes because then we're doing the work of helping the unconscious mind reframe some of those limiting beliefs. Excuse me. And then we ended the session. Now, this was quite tricky. So I talked before about your thoughts, right? And how you create the world around you with your thoughts. Your reticular activating system will seek evidence to show you that your thoughts and your beliefs are true, are real, even if they're not. So in the same way that we can have these negative thoughts 100 times a day that we're not good enough or it's never going to work or blah, 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 we can switch that. We can switch that into an empowering reframe and we can do the opposite. So we can start retraining the brain with the power of affirmations. So when we start saying to ourselves, actually, I am this, or I can do this, or I am working on, and the power of the word yet as well came into our conversation. What we're doing is we're starting to create new paths. So remember that image before about the path through the woods? When we say these things and we start to believe them and we think the thought regularly and the thought becomes a belief and we're laying down these neural pathways in the brain, they become bigger paths, easier paths. We start to believe them. So this is how we ended this session on mindset. I gave all of the ladies a small mirror, an individual mirror, and like a Sharpie pen, and we came up with our own affirmations, which they then wrote on their mirrors. Um, and it ties into this idea, so this neuroscientific idea of neuroplasticity, right? So every time you say an affirmation, you're treading a new path in the woods. You've got to keep treading that path for it to become established. If you walk over a grassy field once, you might flatten the grass, but you're not creating a path, right? And then it will just grow over again. You've got to tread the same path. You've got to practice. So when you're using affirmations, you're practicing and you're laying down new pathways. Which is really helpful. The other thing that's really helpful is speaking with these words aloud. So these affirmations aloud, it makes the thought real to your nervous system. Now, your unconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So if you say something to yourself enough and you attach feeling to it, and you start to believe it, or you tell yourself to believe it, your unconscious mind doesn't know that that's not real. Now, when we first start with these laying down new pathways, we can feel like a bit of a fraud. It can feel a bit weird, like I'm standing in the mirror telling myself X, Y, and Z, and I don't believe it. That's fine. That's normal. Because if you imagine you're standing at the edge of a dense forest, you're standing at the edge of a dense jungle or forest, and you're trying to create a new pathway through this environment. You've never been here before. This is brand new. So initially, you've got to cut all that foliage back, right? You've got to make the path. So you standing in the mirror saying something that you don't necessarily automatically believe is you with the machete. And then the more you say it, the more you do it, the more you create the pathway. And then that becomes a belief. And then a golden rule here is about self-compassion. We have to be very careful of our internal narratives. That inner critic, that inner voice that tells us I'm not good enough, I'm never going to achieve this, I'm rubbish, no one likes me. Whatever your inner critic says, and remember that comes from your experience of life, that comes from the experiences you've had, the thoughts that you've had, and the beliefs that you've embedded. They're not facts, they're beliefs. That's different. So when you have that little inner critic and it's having a go at you all the time, you've got this on repeat in your mind. You're reinforcing these thoughts and beliefs all the time. We need to be very careful about how we speak to ourselves. And the golden rule with this self-compassion, if you wouldn't say it to a friend or your child, don't say it to yourself. You wouldn't look at your daughter or your best friend and say, God, you're rubbish, you're no good, no one likes you. You wouldn't say that. Why are you saying it to yourself? So be compassionate with yourself. And then, like I say, we finished the session with an anchor, with the mirror, which was anchoring our worth. So we're taking something physical and solid away. Everybody came up with at least one affirmation. Some people had quite a few, which is amazing. And then you go away and you use your mirror, your affirmation mirror, you add to it when things come up for you. And then maybe after time, you will change it. You might want to change it as well. That's fine. Sorry, ignore that. But it becomes a tool. Your affirmation mirror is a really useful tool for helping do some of that mindset work, some of that internal work, where we are reframing how we feel about ourselves and how we feel about the world around us and how we interact with the world around us. Because if we're on a weight loss journey and we want to achieve these goals, we need to value ourselves. We need to think that we're worth looking after. If deep down in our root system, in our limiting beliefs, we think, I'm rubbish, I can't do it and I'm rubbish, and what's the point? We're not going to be able to do it. You don't look after something you don't value, right? So you have to start valuing yourself, recognizing your worth, taking good care of yourself, and then the weight loss journey becomes much, much easier. Okay, I think that is the end of, okay, so cultivating self-worth. So just a couple of last takeaways. Cultivating self-worth, super important. And the key word is cultivate. You're not going to have really good self-worth tomorrow. This is a process. If you've been talking to yourself negatively for a long time, it's going to take you a while to come out of that, right? And to change that mindset. So, cultivate means to grow, to look after, to nourish so that we can flourish, right? So, try swapping your inner critic for your inner coach. So turn the volume down on that inner critic and turn the volume up on the coach. This takes us back to a fixed mindset and a growth mindset again. The fixed mindset is saying you can't do it. The growth mindset is cheering you on and saying you're doing great, you're working on it, you're going to get it. Okay, or you can't do it yet. The power of yet is really important. And then your evidence journal. So what we want to do is using the in the same way the reticular activating system works to show you evidence of what you believe. We need to retrain our brain to look for more of what we want it to seek, right? What we want to see. We want to see more of the good stuff. And one way to do that is to record three strengths. So a gratitude journal is great. Every night you can go to bed and write a couple of things in your gratitude journal, or you can write down three strengths, three wins, three things that went really well, three things that you're proud of yourself. So you're starting to cultivate self-worth. You've got to do it consistently. These practices have to be consistent. And then use your mirror, affirmation mirror as well. Using your affirmation mirror every morning reinforces this identity. We're trying to create this new identity, getting rid of the limiting beliefs, turning down the volume of the inner critic. We're trying to move towards cultivating self-worth and new systems, new landscapes. It's a new internal landscape, which can be scary, but it's also very exciting. We want to step into this new identity of I am a woman who looks after myself because I value myself. Okay. So use your affirmation mirror to help you remember to do that. And then functional gratitude is a good tip as well. We can be very negative about our bodies as women, very critical. When I gave the ladies in the group a mirror, the first thing everybody did was, "Oh my God, look at me. Oh, I hate this about this. I hate this about me." We all do it, okay? But it's funny that we automatically go to the negative. We automatically go to what we don't like about ourselves. Let's move towards functional gratitude. Let's get to a place where we feel neutral, neutrality, almost ambivalent, right? But functional gratitude. I might not love my body, but I'm grateful for my belly because it's given me three beautiful children, right? I'm grateful for my legs and my feet because they carry me and they allow me to do X, Y, and Z. Yeah. I'm grateful for my arms because they're strong and they allow me to carry my grandchildren and my shopping. So, functional gratitude, not looking at the negatives, not looking at what you don't like, but thanking your body, being grateful for your body, for all the things it does for you, helps us move towards body neutrality, sort of being a bit neutral about it, and then cultivating acceptance and self-worth. And lastly, a technique called the stop and swap. So when you notice yourself, so as humans, we have what's called metacognition. We're able to think about our thinking, right? We're able to step back, look at our thinking and be a bit analytical about it. Why am I thinking that? Oh, there's that thought again. Oh, there's that limiting belief has popped up again. Where's that come from? So when you notice that you are criticizing yourself or you've got a negative thought or you're stuck in a thought loop of negativity, physically swap it. Stop it, notice it, stop it, and swap it for something else. So what you're doing there is you're interrupting the loop and you're replacing it for something more helpful. So if you find yourself going into a thought pattern of, oh, I'm not good enough or whatever, stop, notice and say something kind to yourself. I'm doing this for myself. I'm on a journey. I'm being patient with myself. I'm looking after myself. I value myself, right? And you can do it as well. I do like a clap. So when I was started my weight loss journey, if I started thinking unhelpful thoughts, I would clap my hands because that was my pattern interrupts. And then I would say, no, No. So I'm saying, and I've got a physical gesture, and I'm reminding myself that we're not going down that path, and I would swap it for something else. And I found that a really helpful technique. Okay, and that's the end. So that is the end of week 7. That is our mindset session. So use some of those tools. Remember, cultivation, cultivating. It's a practice. It's not going to happen. There are 5 things there that you can embed into maybe your morning rituals, your evening rituals, your routines. Pick a couple, do them consistently, most days, most of the time, and it helps you to do that internal work, changing the landscape of the mind, which is going to make our weight loss journey more sustainable because we're changing how we think and feel about ourselves, which is, I would argue, the most important thing. Have a fantastic day.